What is up, guys? This is Nick from P2W Fantasy. Got some heavy hitters joining me tonight, talking player A, player B. Just comparing some guys that I thought were kind of close in some rankings that I looked at, and just asking some of the guests here, which guy do you want in 2020 if you had to pick between the two? So, again, I got some great names in the room right now. I'm just going to go one by one between the guests here, give them a quick introduction for myself, but I'll let them plug their own stuff, just because all three of these guys here have great content, super active guys on Twitter, and three guys that I respect just from the fantasy football community. That's why I hit them up, and they were gracious enough to take some time out of their day to link up with P2W. So I do appreciate that. Yeah, let's start first with Dan. So Dan at 5Wide Football, 5widefootball.com. You go on their website, you can find rankings, YouTube, a podcast. He's super active every day on Twitter with polls and different things like that. Dan is actually the very first guy when I had 2 followers on Twitter, the very first guy to shoot me a message saying, "Hey, do you want to link up sometime on talking about some football?" And I think even when I first dove in, I was a little nervous, and I think I might have even said to Dan, maybe closer to the season at the time. We look at the evolution of both of our accounts and our content, and we've grown pretty fast in a few months here. But again, Dan's always got a sweet spot in my heart because he's the first guy that ever hit me up. So Dan, thanks for joining us, man. You want to talk a little bit about 5Wide for us?
Yeah, sure. I'm very happy to actually be on your channel now. Nick came on to mine, did two podcast episodes. I think they were the 3rd and 4th episodes I ever did. So I was still pretty new myself too. His channel's great. As you can tell, he started March, April time. He's already got over 2,000 followers. He's great too if you're a up and coming guy trying to get into the Twitter community, podcast community. He does a lot of work with letting you write on his blogs, like you give little insights and he incorporates it in. Always fun to work with. And I've done, like I said, I've done a decent amount with him. Right now I currently have my YouTube channel, my website, and obviously Twitter. It's me and a few guys from college mostly that do it. And we just, trying to bridge the gap between experts and average guys, give you a little bit more information.
All right. Well, thanks again for coming on. Always good to link up with you. We always keep in touch. Next guy I got here is Dave with Dynasty Dorks. He is a writer for the Dynasty Dorks, and he's a co-founder. Again, a guy that's super active on Twitter. I think I've hit you up for an article before. And I definitely wanted to get you on a podcast here. So why don't you give us a little bit of background on Dynasty Dorks and what you guys got going on there?
Yeah, so Dynasty Dorks is myself and Danny Pogue. It's Depot for Show on Twitter. We don't have anything going on with our site right now, but we've been collaborating with a lot of different groups, Couch Potato, GM. We used to do some work with Pro Football Network and their PFN Dynasty. And really just being active, helping people share their content, and trying to make sure everybody gets access to. There's just so much good stuff out on Twitter, and people miss out if you just don't hit that share button. So we try to make sure all the polls get out, and guys like you that are putting out good content, making sure people get access to it.
Very cool. Very cool. And again, thanks for coming on. You were pretty quick to respond to me and both the times I've hit you up. So I really do appreciate that. And our last guest we have here is Beezy. He's at the Beezy BFF. He is a co-creator of Dynasty Sons. Says in the header there, he's one of the OGs at the Undroppables that I think we all know about. You guys got the pod with the Unscripted going on. I'm sure you guys got a ton of other stuff. Super active again on Twitter, and you are a guy that's always willing to push out some other people's content and link up with guys, which I think is very appreciated because you yourself have a large account, and to see somebody active like that and responsive to other people is something I have respected a lot about you. So why don't you introduce yourself a little bit and what you got going on with your own brand and the Undroppables, whatever you want to plug here.
All right. Hey, my man. I appreciate the kind words. We're just trying to do our thing over there. Pauly Sleepers is a guy that kind of got me into the range. So I try to, kind of give back, and, we try to help everybody out, try to help everybody grow. And, Nick, I've seen you growing like crazy lately, man. You're just blowing up the scene. So, much respect for that. And like I said, I've seen both of you guys as well, and you guys are doing a great job on your ends. And, at the Undroppables, man, we're just a group of guys. We got a lot of, heavy hitters. We got Paulies in there, Stoners in there, Dino Game Theory, Chalk. So what's up, man?
Yeah, we got. If I interrupt you guys at any time, it's because we got guys saying what's up. So
yeah, Dynasty Society, my dude.
Couple guys here. Yeah, Dynasty Society, the big sneak.
Yeah, my boys.
All right.
But like I said, dude, we're just trying to get some stuff going. We got the site up. We got Unscripted kicked off about 6 weeks ago. So we're just trying to kind of build the brand a little bit. We have got so much stuff going on in the backgrounds. We've got a potential of a trade calculator that we're working on for the website. We've got all sorts of stuff coming for YouTube. I mean, we're like going pretty nuts with the stuff, but it's fun. We're just trying to get our name out there, interact as much as possible, and just put out some good content for you guys.
Very cool, very cool. And again, all three of you guys, big guys in the community, working hard, and that does not go unnoticed for a lot of us that also put in the work for it. So again, thanks guys for coming on. Let's jump into it. So again, if you're just tuning in now, we are talking player A versus player B. And what I did was I tried to grab some guys, a couple guys from each position that I feel are close in the rankings, and I cheated and looked on like Fantasy Pros 2020 rankings and found guys that are pretty close to each other. And I'm asking you guys, player A or player B. So I'm going to ask two guys, and your guys' job here is to tell me who do you want in 2020. So redraft mentality, not necessarily dynasty. Dave, I know you put some of these on Twitter on a poll, so you got some of the Twitter community voting on these as well earlier today. But yeah, so the first one that I have for us tonight is two running backs. David Montgomery is player A. Player B is Devin Singletary, and we'll give Dan the keys to this first one. Go ahead, Dan.
All right, cool. I'm happy to have this first one. Like all of these, they're extremely close. I went on Fantasy Pros and got some stats out. Montgomery is 24, Singletary's 25. Singletary's going a little bit ahead of Montgomery, actually, in average ADP. And so, you're looking at the two of them. They're very close in age. They're both drafted in the 3rd round last year. But when I'm leaning one guy over the other, it's actually Montgomery. Probably before the draft, I would have said Singletary, but he's going to get I think that Moss takes the Frank Gore carries. He takes the 3rd down. He takes the goal line ones. And Montgomery had a terrible Bears offense around him. I mean, it was historically bad. I'm sorry. I know you're a Bears fan.
Yeah, I'm sitting there listening to you. I was hiding this, but yeah, go ahead.
But I just don't think. I think the talent is much better than what he looked like last year. Mm-hmm. Their offensive line struggled, and they're better than how they looked. PFF had him at 25, but they said they could see him doing a lot better. They were a fringe top 10 in 2018. And I just think he's going to see 250, 300 carries. I think he's going to get more involved in the receptions. Tyreek Cohen was terrible last year. I don't know why they kept throwing him the ball. He led the team in drops. So I just think everything points up for Montgomery, where I think Singletary improves slightly or stays the same. And I know he had that terrible touchdowns, but I don't think it gets much better than 4 touchdowns again.
All right. So we got Dan with Montgomery, and just to take a quick pause here, Detroit BC, my guy Chris said, guy wears nothing but jerseys. I'm always wearing one. I'm repping my Luka Doncic now. We got Beezy for Prez, D Brown.
That's my boy right there.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. The big sneak 77. I'm big on Montgomery this year. Volume is king. And let's turn this volume up a little bit. Okay. What's your take on Cohen? I'll comment on this directly afterwards. Last one here. Dynasty Shakes 15. All my favorite in one room, and Beezy 2. Montgomery will get too many touches to finish worse. I think that's Dynasty Dad, right? All right. So, Dave, your turn here. Do we have Montgomery or we have Singletary in your books for 2020?
I'm going with Dan. Same guy. I'm going with Montgomery. A lot of the same concerns with Singletary. Moss taking the Gore role and that touchdown count. I don't think it's going to get much better with Josh Allen there. I think Singletary was one of the least used running backs in the 10 zone, and Josh Allen is a big reason for that. I mean, I don't see that changing. And then I see things improving for Montgomery. It's going to be a different offense if they switch over to Foles, and that should benefit Montgomery a lot. So yeah, no, I'm the same way, man.
All right, so we got 2 for Montgomery before Beezy goes. Wonder where Beezy goes on this deal. So
that's my boy Trav right there.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's known, but for the people that don't know Beezy, who do you have on this?
Dude, it's known. They all know where it's going. It's going David Montgomery. I'm the resident David Montgomery truther. I've been blasting him for 2 years. I'm still blasting him right now. Here it is. I mean, he's got the easiest, he's got the biggest opportunity for 250 to 300 touches, like you guys said. He had one of the least efficient offensive lines. Last year, you said they were 25th by PFF. The year before that, they were 11th. So they definitely can improve in that area. That was just probably injuries, bad coaching, bad play calling, all that stuff. One of the fun stats that I found was in the 8 games that the Bears lost this year, Montgomery had less than 15 touches. In the 8 games that they won, he had more than 15 touches in those games. So they did not bring in anybody else. Tariq Cohen is on a contract year. So he's still going to be involved. He's going to get in the passing game, but I truly think Nagy is going to give him the full load, let him go out there. I believe he was a number 2 ranked pass blocking running back, and that was by PFF as well. So he's phenomenal from that aspect. So he can be on for all 3 downs. The kid, he's been working out with Rashad Whitfield, who's the footwork king. So he's trying to get his footwork together, get his burst going. I mean, you saw it last year. He had a lot of opportunity. He wasted a lot of it by dancing. He didn't hit the hole hard. Some of that was the offensive line because you watched and the defense was in the backfield before he even touched the ball. So big opportunity for him. I actually like Devin Singletary a lot. And so I'll take my David Montgomery, but Singletary, I think it's going to be a real sneaky play. Everybody's on the Zach Moss train right now. They're riding it hard. I don't know if you saw my tweet from earlier today with the Zach Moss thing. Yeah. Yep. So, but last year, he was extremely efficient in the opportunity that he had.
Yes.
And when at the beginning of the year, he missed 4 games. He still finished with over 1,000 yards. He was at 5.1 yards per attempt for rushing. He was at 6.7 yards per catch. He's got the opportunity and he knows that offense a little bit better than Moss, and with the shortened camp schedules and all that, I think he's going to get a lot more work than people are thinking. And for people that are thinking Moss is going to come in and get 12 touchdowns, get out of here. Josh Allen had 9 of them last year.
Yep.
The other guys had 2. So Josh Allen's the goal line back. But Singletary can get some more opportunity in the passing game too. So he's also a sneaky buy right now with Zach Moss getting all the hype.
All right. So 3 guys with Montgomery. Going in initially for me, I was looking at just numbers and, things like yards per carry and who's getting the receptions. And I started kind of leaning on a Singletary for a little bit, especially with the thought, like a lot of people talk about how Kareem Hunt takes away that passing work from Nick Chubb that he used to have. And David Montgomery, Iowa State, was actually decent pass catcher, and he's not utilized in that way. And we got the Tariq Cohen ceiling cap with that. But I think I'm also going to go Montgomery here. He did get a lot of volume last year, 242 carries. Like you said, Beezy, it looked at times like he wasn't hitting the hole, and some people kind of knocked him, saying, is he kind of slow? But I think it had to do with maybe some vision stuff going on, but also I think even as a Bears fan, what was slept on was kind of the lack of production from that offensive line. And I think Nagy even got a little too cute at times and didn't utilize Montgomery the way he does need to be used. The big thing for me is touchdowns when I'm looking at a running back, especially in the red zone. So Singletary, is he going to get a lot of those touches? We've seen his quarterback last year scored 9, I think, or whatever that number was. We got Zach Moss coming in. I'm with you. I don't think Zach Moss comes in and just, bulldozes everybody down and scores all these touchdowns. But does he take that away from Singletary also, like Josh Allen does? I think, yeah, potentially. So I'm banking on, as a Bears fan, I'm banking on a better offense with hopefully an offensive line that does their job a bit better. I think if Nagy comes in and he simplifies the playbook a little bit, I think if Nick Foles is a starter, I'm a Bears fan, and I'm going to say I hope that happens. I think maybe with the offense potentially being better, that may give Montgomery some opportunities maybe in the red zone where I think he can score a lot more points. So if he is a guy that can get you some more touchdowns, if he can be more efficient with the carries, because he does get some decent volume, I think he can improve this year. And I think that's a separating factor for me between him and Singletary right now, just because Singletary's utilized, but there's areas that I think he's going to be lacking as far as where you want your fantasy running back to be. But yeah, anything else for these two guys?
I was just going to say, David Montgomery has the 5th easiest schedule for running backs in 2020. So buy him up, baby. He's going to be running.
There you go. All right, let's move on. James Conner versus David Johnson. So 2 guys banged up in the past, didn't have the greatest 2019 season. We'll start this time with Beezy. Who do you have, James Conner or David Johnson for 2020?
Well, if you can't see back on the wall over there, that would be Pittsburgh Steelers stuff everywhere.
Uh-oh.
So right. I'm a diehard. I was born and raised in the Berg. I'm actually going to take my man James Conner here. Now, I get it. He's had some injuries, and it's been a little bit of a rough go for the last 2 years. But this year, coming into 2020, he's in a contract season. This kid is playing for his career, essentially. It's either now or never. You want the paycheck, now you got to do it. So he's got the opportunity. There's not a ton of the other backs there are just you know what I mean? They can do their thing, but they're not anything special. Offensive line is fantastic. Big Ben is back. Juju's healthy. Deontay's in another year. They got Ebron, and they built that offense up to move. If Conner can stay healthy for 13 games, I think he's an RB1. And he's going to give you RB1 production because Pitt doesn't normally do timeshares. They'll ride a guy until he goes. With that contract year, they're going to ride him until the wheels fall off to see what they got in him. I'm all about James Conner this year.
All right, so we got Beezy with James Conner over David Johnson. We'll go with Dynasty Dorks. Let's get your take on this.
I'm going with Beezy, James Conner. I like both these guys. I think, I think, again, you made this pretty hard for all of us, but these are decisions people are going to make on draft day.
Good thing.
When James Conner is healthy, he's 3-down back, and he's an RB1. David Johnson made his hay in the passing game, and Deshaun Watson does not throw the ball to the running back enough for him to do what he's done in the past. He is going to, Johnson's still going to be good if Carlos Hyde can make it happen and be a solid producer. I think David Johnson can as well. But I just like James Conner more. I think the offensive line is much better in Pittsburgh, and I think there's just more upside with Conner. So that's where I'm rolling.
All right, 2 for Conner. Just real quick, Dynasty Society, if healthy, he will be a bell cow. I'm with you, Beezy, and he's also with Dave with the Dynasty Dorks, and also the Big Sneak 77. I'm also a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, so it's Connor.
My man.
All right, Dan, are you gonna break the ice here, or are you rolling with the same guy?
I'm a little upset that I actually am rolling with Connor now, because I really had a very, very hard one on this, and I ended up going with Pittsburgh's got the easier schedule and the better offensive line. So it came down to a trust more of the offense. But I feel like when you're looking at both of these guys, I mean, they were separated by 4 points last year. I think David Johnson is going to be the bell cow in Houston, because as much as everyone hates Bill O'Brien, he primarily uses one back. Duke Johnson got catches, but he wasn't running anywhere near as often as Carlos Hyde, and David Johnson's a better talent than Hyde. So, I mean, I really think that you're splitting hairs with these two guys, but I have more faith in the Pittsburgh offense, and that's why I ended up leaning towards James Conner over David Johnson. But both teams primarily use one running back. Both guys have some high upside if they can stay healthy, because they've both obviously had health issues in the past. Pittsburgh's got the 9th best offensive line compared by PFF, and they've got the 3rd easiest schedule. Houston's got 19th offensive line, 24th schedule, and I think Duke Johnson's the best of the backup running backs there. I know some people are pretty high on McFarland, but the Steelers, if they really truly wanted a running back, there's a lot better ones in the first 3 rounds they could have got than waiting till the 4th. So,
yeah, good points there. I'm going to go and cap this off for a 4th person to say the same thing. Also, Master June 70 says Connor, baby, Beezy knows where it's at.
My boy.
There you go. The thing I liked about David Johnson's landing spot, I was saying early to like my brother who's also part of P2W, I was saying if somebody gets drafted, this was a while ago, to the Texans, man, is that a nice spot to be? Because we saw Carlos Hyde be decently successful there, and I think it's a team that you can be productive in that offense. But I think we've all seen a little concerning things from David Johnson this past year. I'm hoping he's healthy. I'm hoping he's 100% ready to go. But the yards per carry, the yards after catch, those numbers were eyebrow raising if you're an owner of him. So with Connor, on the other hand, a guy that gets banged up a decent amount, we get concerned about that. Even in 2018 RB6, but he missed a few games. So you do worry about the durability of him. But, I mean, this past season, 2019, 9th through week 8, RB9 through week 8. We know he could be productive. He's a guy that can do it all. I know there's some other guys on the roster now. You got your Benny Snell, McFarland, Jalen Samuel, but I think he's a guy that can stay on the field when healthy and give a lot for you. And I also think now that we don't have a Mason Rudolph, Duck Hodges-led Pittsburgh Steelers, I think there's a lot of upside for a lot of different guys. We look at guys like Juju Smith-Schuster, who had a poor year. He was banged up, but also didn't perform well. Things are very different for them. Great defense, which also can, result in James Conner getting some good touches during the games. Game script can be good for a running back. So I think with James Conner showing us that he could be in that top 10 back when he's healthy consistently and what he can produce, I'm going to go with you guys and say James Conner for this one. All right. So we're about 23, 24 minutes in. So how about for our last running back? Let's just say who your pick was. No explanation for this one. Just who your guy was, just so we can get to the wide receiver. So we'll start with Dynasty Dorks. I said Jordan Howard versus Sony Michel. Who was your guy?
Jordan Howard.
All right. Beezy, how about you?
It's Jordan Howard, baby.
All right. Dan?
Bucking the trend, I'm taking Sony.
All right. There you go. I'm going to go with the other two, though, with Jordan Howard. But let's move on to wide receivers just for the sake of time here. All great explanations. A couple guys voicing Howard, Howard. Off the previous two, Pittsburgh D is elite. Big Ben, 10 attempts less with top 3D. Game script, Connor. Yep. Things we definitely touched on. I'm glad other guys are seeing that as well. So the next one, pretty interesting. we're going to go with Chris Godwin versus Allen Robinson. And I'll actually start this one off just to switch things up. Chris Godwin had such a crazy wide receiver 2 year. I don't think a lot of guys that were super high in him even thought that he was going to end the year as the wide receiver 2, but he did. He absolutely balled out in an offense that allowed him to this past season. Allen Robinson, coming off a top 10 year for him, 3rd in targets, 7th in receptions. Both better than Godwin, but Godwin had those good plays that resulted in some great fantasy points. For me, though, my concern with Chris Godwin is that this offense might be shaped a little bit different than it was last year. I think you're bringing in Tom Brady, who is going to be out to win games and not out to just gunsling all the time, especially with a defense that's bringing back some guys, and they're really not a terrible defense. I just think that the whole look of the Bucs is going to be different. I think they're going to be very, let's get the W, let's get the win. Brady spreading things out. I think even with having his boy Gronk, he's going to spread some targets out to O.J. Howard, maybe Cameron Brate. Still got Mike Evans. You can talk about Scotty Miller. You could talk about Tyler Johnson. Who knows what's going to happen with the running backs? I can say what I think, but I don't want to get into that because that's a touchy subject right now. But I just don't see the ceiling that Godwin had this past year from that Bucs team that was chasing so many games, and Jameis was just slinging and slinging and slinging. I just don't see that as the same Bucs this year. Allen Robinson, I think, is going to be heavily targeted, regardless of who the QB is, Nick Foles or Mitch Trubisky. I think he's going to score maybe not as high as he did last year, but somewhere very, very close. So, I mean, if he's to regress a little bit, I still think he's going to be above Godwin just because of the target share he's going to have and the fact that we know for a fact when he's competing for volume, he's going to be the guy that gets it. I don't know if I can 100% say competing for volume, it's going to 100% be Chris Godwin. So I'm going to go with Allen Robinson on this one. So don't yell at me, but Beezy, you can go next for this.
My man, I'm all over A-Rob, dude. It's A-Rob for me at 100%. This guy played 97% of the snaps last year. He had 153 balls thrown at him, 27% of the target share in Chicago, averaging 15.9 points per game, which ranked him 9th on a per game basis. Allen Robinson has got to be the most underrated number 1 wide receiver and disrespected number 1 wide receiver in the NFL. He's a stud. I love Chris Godwin. Don't get me wrong, but having Brady go over there is going to definitely change that offense from what it was last year. Mm-hmm. I don't think they're going to throw as much, and call me crazy, but I really like Mike Evans to, Brady likes those big receivers. When he has them, he utilizes them. Think of the Randy Mosses and all those, and some of the other guys he had. But Allen Robinson, I get it. He, the quarterback situation isn't great in Chicago, but he's produced with subpar quarterbacks almost his entire career, and he was a number 1 last year. So going into this year, dude, hands down, it's him, regardless if it's Foles or Trubisky. I'm all in.
And I got a comment. This dude has had Bortles and Trubisky at QB and has still been a stud, which I agree with. So let's say the offense is a little bit better with the Nick Foles, or if Mitch steps his game up, I think just Allen Robinson just told the world, like, hey, it doesn't matter who it is, I'm going to ball out. So, Dan, what's your take on this one?
So as Nick knows, because you were on my podcast early when we did the top 5 receivers, I am very high on Chris Godwin. Mm-hmm. And I think it's much closer than a lot of people think. Obviously, the experts have them 6, 7. Allen Robinson kills it in targets, but you guys went over all the reasons for Allen Robinson. So I'll make the case for Chris Godwin. I think that the Bucs defense still isn't going to be that good. That they don't have a great defense, so they're still going to have to put up points. They play in a very strong offensive division. The Panthers improved on offense. The Saints are a great offensive team. The Falcons led the league in passing yards last year. Like, none of that's going to change, so they're going to be in shootouts. I still like Tom Brady at 43 over Nick Foles or Mitch Trubisky. I think we're going to see some like Brett Favre-esque where he comes out and has a really good first year like Favre did with Minnesota. and then his age catches up to him. I love that they play down in the South Division. It's warm down at the end of the season in the playoffs. You're going to be having Chris Godwin playing in Tampa Bay. And then he goes, I was pulling it up, he's got Tampa Bay, and then they go to the Falcons, which is indoors, and then the Lions, which is indoors. And that was week 14, 15, 16. So, like, kind of to break a very close tiebreaker, I think Godwin's got a better setup for the playoffs. So I just like the division and the weather and the quarterback more.
All right.
Great. So we got Chris Godwin from Dan. Dave, are you going to even things up, or are you?
Yeah, we're going to even things up. I almost
all right. I like it.
A-Rob. One of the reasons I wanted to go A-Rob is the ADP. They're pretty close in rank, but Robinson is cheaper. So if we're talking about who do you want when you're from your roster together, if you can get Robinson in the third, that's pretty sexy. So that did make me want to go that route, but for all the same reasons as Dan, that division is just fantasy gold, and I love Godwin's schedule with that. I think with Brady, I think Brady and Godwin, because Godwin is such a great route runner. He does phenomenal in zone, phenomenal in man-to-man. If you read Matt Harmon's reception perception, he's awesome. Allen Robinson's awesome as well. But I think Godwin really is going to put up a lot of points in PPR with that division, with that bad defense. And that's where I'm going.
All right. So we got a split 50-50 on these two, which I like a lot. Let's move on to the next two. We got two guys that wear orange, pretty close in the rankings for 2020. I got Jarvis Landry versus Tyler Boyd. So you caught your breath for a second there, Dave. Why don't you start us off here?
Cool. Last year, Minnesota Vikings ran the 11 personnel, the least in the league, and they were second in the league in 12 personnel. So Landry is going to have to go back out to the outside. And remember Baker's first year when Landry did that, it wasn't as good. So I'm going Boyd. I think last year in the Zach Taylor offense, he was. He obviously flourished without AJ Green, but I still think with AJ Green coming back, he still is he's gonna eat a lot. That they're the worst in the division. Their defense is horrible. They're gonna be playing catch up a lot, and AJ Green coming back probably helps him because he gets some of the attention off of him. So and we saw Burrow. Obviously I think Burrow is an upgrade from Dalton, and he definitely is from Finley. And he loved the slot in college, targeting Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. So give me Tyler Boyd.
All right. We got Thundercats. Thanks
for you, Beezy. Yeah.
All right.
That's a Scott Fishbowl division.
All right. There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Dan, why don't you take over for this? What do you got? Jarvis Landry or Tyler Boyd?
So I'm going Jarvis Landry. And I think large part of it is which is going to be surprising to a lot of people, the signing of Jack Conklin. The Browns had a really bad offensive line last year, and Baker Mayfield was struggling a lot. I think that Jack Conklin at the right tackle position just gives Baker Mayfield a lot more time to pass, and it's going to be almost impossible if you've got Kareem Hunt out in the flat. You've got they got a Hooper there running at the tight end. Then you've got Odell going deep and Landry just living in all that middle of the field. Because how are you going to be able to double him? It's just going to be so hard. I mean, Landry has done nothing but produced every year he's been in the league. He's a tremendous talent. And I just think the Browns offense as a whole takes a big step forward. Despite being on their third coach, despite everyone now hating on them after they loved them last year, because I think they shored up their offensive line, which was pretty good in 2018 and was terrible last year. And I think it will move back to pretty good again.
Okay. All right. So you got Landry there. Beezy, who do you have here?
We could go with another guy that's disrespected in the community. That's Jarvis Landry. So I love Tyler Boyd. I'm buying him in Dynasty anywhere I can get him. But for 2020, go with the safety. Landry's going to take over that. More than likely, he'll probably take over that Diggs role in Stefanski's offense, which is pretty lucrative. He might not be in the slot as much. They might be running some different personnel, but he's going to get a lot of volume. And they might not throw as much, but it's only going to be him and Odell that are going to be on the field most of the time. So I'm going to go with Landry just because he's just that safe wide receiver 2. The only reason I would say avoid Boyd maybe a little bit this year, I do think he's going to be the Justin Jefferson to Joe Burrows. So he's going to play that role, but that offense needs to get going before, you want to take a shot on a guy like Boyd just to see how it all plays out.
Yeah. Very new offense there. And another quick comment, Beezy only speaks the truth. Beezy most underrated and droppable. So we're talking underrated guys right now. Beezy's on the list.
All right. Rofus, man. That's my boy.
Hey, there you go.
Master
I'm with you. Jarvis Landry versus Tyler Boyd. I'll split the tie here. I'm a big Tyler Boyd guy. I know I'm going to agree there's going to be some question marks about how things are going to click on that offense. Things are new for 2020 with a new quarterback and AJ Green, who's going to come back and play. Who's going to fill in with Higgins and Ross and Auden Tate, and who's going to be the tight end. So there's going to be a lot of question marks. Both of these guys are so consistent over the past year. 2019, wide receiver 12 for Landry, wide receiver 18 Boyd, and then the previous year it was 17 and 18 Boyd and Landry. Again, depending on your formatting, this is just off of Fantasy Pros. So these guys are pretty tight. I like Tyler Boyd because I feel like the game script for the Bengals is going to be a very pass-heavy team. I think that they're going to be throwing the ball a lot. I think Boyd fits in, like you guys have all said, pretty much into that Justin Jefferson sort of role that I think Joe Burrow is comfortable with. I like Tyler Boyd's consistency as far as being involved in the offense. Could he do things as far as his efficiency a little bit better? Sure. But 11th in receptions this past year, 7th in targets. We know that Jarvis Landry was the best receiver on that team last year. They also have some question marks with, will OBJ have a big bounce back year? How's Austin Hooper going to fill in? So I think in both scenarios, they're both consistent wide receivers, and they're both guys that I think you can trust drafting both of them. I'm just more of a Tyler Boyd guy because of maybe just having him on my rosters. I don't know if that's where I get my bias, but I think he's just more in line to get the volume than I think that Landry is, just personally. And I think even with AJ Green coming back, I still think Boyd is going to have the most targets on the team, which maybe some will yell at me if they're big AJ Green guys. Fantasy Stoner even said himself, AJ Green, he's calling me out right here. Doesn't he hurt Boyd? I actually think he helps Boyd. Personally, I think with Boyd being the center of attention on the offense this past year and still being good, I think now having AJ Green lining up with him probably helps him a bit. But I still think he's going to have the most targets on the Bengals. But that's just me. We're going to split that one 2-2, which I like again a lot. And let's do the one-word answer for our last one, just for the sake of time, so we can move on to tight ends. So I wrote down Brandon Cooks versus Marvin Jones, and we'll go Beezy on this one. Who's your guy?
Brandon Cooks, baby, ton of targets there. Go get him.
All right, you got it. What do you think, Dan?
I'm going Cooks. Cooks as well.
All right, and Dave?
Cooks.
All right, I also have Cooks, and we got a Fantasy Stoner says Beezy has a tight end. He heard our tight end comment, so he's saying that. Just gonna throw that one in there.
That's my boy.
Yeah, there you go. He's another one from your guys' group. They're the Undroppables.
Oh yeah.
The Big Sneak 77 also says Cooks, and then Porkman88 also says Ayo Beezy.
My other dude right there too. Coming hot tonight.
Hey man, we gotta have you on every freaking podcast here.
I'm ready. I'm ready, dude. Let's go.
It's a Beezy love fest tonight.
I love it.
Baby.
And what was it the other night where people were saying which one they thought was the cutest? I'm waiting for Beezy to start getting those call outs. Was that on yours, Nick? What?
Hey,
last week?
It might have been. Don't quote me on it. I don't know.
Who'd you have on there? I can't remember, but it was a good one last week.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to tight ends here. Tyler Higbee, huge name at the end of the season this past year, and Hunter Henry. So you got two of the H guys here. Definitely didn't go alphabetical. Just looking down the list here. Tyler Higbee, Hunter Henry. Let's go with Dan on this one. Who do you have?
So this is funny. If anyone wants a really in-depth Tyler Higbee breakdown, I had Dave from Guru World on my channel earlier in the week, and we did a really in-depth Tyler Higbee breakdown. So I don't love either of these guys. I also actually had the fantasy doctor on too. Edwin. I can't remember his Twitter handle off the top of my head.
Oh, at FB Injury Doc.
Yes, FB Injury Doc. He's great. He was actually saying that Henry
good call
isn't the you don't have to worry too much about the re-injury with him. He's much more worried about guys like Evan Ingram and Rob Gronkowski. So I sit here and I did dig-ins on both, and unlike all the other guys where I love both of them, both of these guys I don't like. I'm kind of avoiding them. There's a lot of question marks. But when it comes down to it, I'm leaning Higbee just because the Rams have 126 vacated targets, over 1,000 vacated air yards. They have one of the offense that just loves to pass the ball. Jared Goff and Higbee, they got a connection. He's under contract for the next 4 years. Hunter Henry is going to have either Tyrod Taylor, who nobody loves, or Herbert, who no one thinks is ready, throwing him the football. The Chargers don't have much vacated targets at all, so he's not going to be really seeing much of an uptick, I believe. I think he's going to be seeing less targets as the team passes less. So that's why I'm leaning Higbee and two guys I don't think I would draft.
All right. So Dan's going to go Higbee, but he's going to avoid both of those guys. Let's see some of the comments real quick. Master June 70 says Hunter Henry for me. Guys are commenting, so I'm clicking on the same one. Fantasy Stoner says Hunter Henry has a weirdly square jaw. So that might be a Higbee vote. I'm not entirely sure. Shotgun Fantasy, my boy Colin says not touching Henry or Higbee for me. So he's saying neither, but we do have to pick one. And we got, I think I said that there. And a lot of Kittle comments on here from guys. So
Stoner's on there, so that's why.
Yeah, he's rounding the troops for the Kittle gang. So we got two guys not named Kittle, but Kittle sneaks in there. Let's go with Dave. Who do you got, Tyler Higbee or Hunter Henry in 2020?
One thing I want to say was interesting. I was looking at the ADP, and Gronkowski's sneaking above both of these guys. So he's slowly getting up there. That's for another conversation, but
might be a long one.
Yeah, I also went with Higbee. I don't know if it's just Hunter Henry fatigue. I feel like every year it's he's the next guy, and then he's just not. Mm-hmm. Hunter Henry, he's going to see less targets. That whole offense is just going to be less pass heavy than it has in recent past. And like Dan said, there's not a lot of vacant targets to go around. And Higbee's the opposite. It's a pass heavy offense that has vacated targets, and they really featured him at the end of the year last year, and he put up a stretch that shout out to Matt Hicks, FF educator. He called him a jag, but I'd say a jag is not going to put up that type of a stretch for 5 or 6 weeks in a row of top 3, top 5 production. So give me Higbee. I like Higbee.
All right,
you're up.
I'm up right now.
Yeah, I'll give you the mic 1 second. Just gonna throw out more of these jaw comments. So what I'm getting is part of the tight end criteria for 2020 is how strong their jaw is. I'm just throwing that one out there right now. I had Colin also say if I had to pick, it's probably Higbee. Fantasy Stoner's asking, what about G. Everett?
There it is. He got me right there.
Yeah. Go ahead, Beezy. You're up.
I'll go quick. So that was a big thing. Was Gerald Everett was out for quite a bit of that. He's coming back this year. He was a better prospect coming in. He was getting more opportunity before he got injured. The Rams kind of switched over to the double tight end set because they had some injuries at wide receiver. I honestly think Cooper Kupp was injured. So I think he was fighting something. That's just my opinion. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to go with Hunter Henry. When Tyrod Taylor was a starting quarterback back in Buffalo, who was his number one target?
Charles Clark.
Bingo. So he likes the tight end position. He's going to rely on the tight end position. It's like his little safety valve. He's a good tight end. He's had some injuries himself, but if I'm going to gamble on it, I feel that, Henry is going to be on the field more. He's going to have more opportunity, where Higbee, I could see getting faded out of games when they go back to their 3 wide receiver sets and put Kupp in the slot. And I also think Everett, and who's a kid that they just drafted to? Harrison
Park. Was it Park? Is there? No, he's Seattle, right? I'm mixing up the tight end.
There was a Bryant, and then there was another one. I don't know. Bryant's Cleveland, but I can't remember the other kid. But they drafted him as well. So, I'm going to roll with Hunter Henry. I think he's going to become a safety valve for Tyrod. And if Justin Herbert goes over, then we might not see him as I see him with Tyrod. But that's where I'm going to go right now.
Just real quick, it was Hopkins.
Yeah,
there we go. Yes, there we go. Yep.
Yeah, I was Googling it too because I'm getting some of the guys mixed up, but a lot of guys started yelling in the comments, so it was quick for us to get that. Dynasty Dynamite says Gesicki hairline and Goddard peripheral vision are both concerning. So these are more factors that I'm telling you right now I did not look into, but I've been writing down every single one of them because I'm not looking into this stuff enough. So I'm glad these guys are here.
Oh, that's great.
Do you like anything else? Stupid Bryson Hopkins from stupid Purdue. So we don't like Purdue. All right. So I like the points, Beezy, you just made. Tyler Higbee was this super shiny tight end. Weeks 13 through 17, he was tight end 1. The guy was a 2016 draft, and he broke out over a couple weeks of football. So, like you said, Everett was very used before. We weren't really talking about Tyler Higbee too much. Do I think that he's going to be used next season? Sure, for sure. Do I think that we can just bank on him being a tight end, the tight end 1 or the tight end 2 or 3? I do not think so at all. I think that was due to a lot of things, a lot of factors. Might have been Cooper Kupp being banged up. Might have been the lack of Everett being there, game script going on, different things like that. I'm a big Hunter Henry fan, and I'm a big Hunter Henry truther. Dan, on your podcast before when we did our top 5s, I'm going to be honest with you. My rankings for stuff's going to come out this weekend. My stuff has changed. For sure, because we talked a while ago.
Oh yeah, mine's changed.
Yeah, it was a while ago. So I do like Hunter Henry. Top 10 yards per target all 3 seasons that he's been in the league. I think Anthony Lynn, I don't care who the quarterback is, I think he wants to make sure that Henry is going to eat in that offense. And I think regardless of who the quarterback is, a lot of times like a good safety blanket when things are breaking down is your tight end. And I think Hunter Henry has proved that he can handle the consumption of the volume. 17 touchdowns, 25 targets in the red zone over 41 games. If you are a guy trying to draft a tight end for a great ceiling, get the guy that is very targeted in the red zone, and that is Hunter Henry. He's going to give you some touchdowns. He just needs to stay in the field. You just said, FBI Doc said, not super concerning injuries for him, Dan. You noted that. I'm a big Hunter Henry guy because as a fantasy football enthusiast, I love volume and I love touchdowns. And I think he can have both of those without a question mark, regardless of who the quarterback is next season for the Chargers. So I'm going to go Henry with that.
All right.
Moving on, Mike Gesicki or Noah Fant. And we'll give the mic to Beezy here.
This was a tough one, actually, but I'm going to go with Noah Fant. I think he's actually the better tight end all around. Gesicki worries me. I think he's a big trap this year. He's getting a lot of hype. He's moving up those draft boards. So Chan Gailey is their offensive coordinator. This guy likes to run a lot of 3 wide receiver sets. He doesn't usually utilize his tight ends a whole lot. Now, the other spot to that is that third tight end in the slot could be Gesicki if they don't have anybody else to take that role. but he could be on the outside looking in a lot this year. So he's a guy that I'm kind of starting to. I'll buy in Dynasty because he's a super athletic. He's got the upside there for sure. But I'm going to fade him, and I'm going to go with who was the other guy?
Mike Gesicki versus Noah Fant.
There we go. I got a brain fart there.
Yeah.
So Noah Fant, obviously he's with the Broncos. They got, Drew Lock's a question mark, but that's going to be a good offense. They got Judy. They got Cortland Sutton on the outside. It's going to open up a lot for Fant in the middle. He's going to have a lot of mismatches with linebackers. Kid's got some, he's got some speed on him. So he's going to be able to take advantage of those mismatches. I'll take Noah Fant this year, and we'll fade Gesicki.
All right. I'll go next just because I'll throw in the counter. I like Gesicki. Second half of the season, tight end 8. Obviously, they had a little bit of a change when they lost one of their top receivers. But, finished the year 2019 tight end 12. Noah Fant had a great rookie season, tight end 16, and he had some comparisons through his numbers and what he was doing to Kittle. So I think that's great. I just like the fact that Gesicki, 89 targets for 51 catches. That's a huge amount, I think, for a guy just getting implemented into an offense. I think that Noah Fant, I'm never going to use the terms like there's too many mouths to feed over there, because I think like talent's going to get, the volume when it's need be. I don't like that phrase, but there is a lot of guys to compete with, I'll say, on the counter to that statement. There's a lot of guys to compete with for volume. I think for Gesicki, let's say it's a healthy Devontae Parker and a healthy Preston Williams. I think for sure he can dip into that third option. I don't know if Fant's going to be the third option in that offense with Sutton and Judy there. So volume, I think, is key. I like the volume that he had throughout the year. Does it change next season if Tua, comes into the mix? I don't know, because we got to understand that the quarterback is a huge factor on how things run. But when you got a guy like Mike Flores, who really, really wanted to win last year, and he was pushing on Fitzpatrick, and he was pushing certain styles of play and things like that, I think he'd like Gesicki, and I don't see why he would lessen his volume if he was successful. So I just like the trend where Mike Gesicki's going. I'm going to go with him, and I'll turn it over to Dave on this.
All right, I'll follow you up with some more Gesicki love.
All right,
I think Judy is gonna eat into Fant. But I still, to be honest, didn't really like either of these guys. Gesicki, that defense, it has gotten better, but I still think the Dolphins are going to be trailing a lot. It's going to equal a lot of passing volume. He's that super tight end, so he's going to be out there, and possibly in some of those 3 receiver sets is just a big flexed out tight end.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't attack anything in the offseason in regards to adding to that receiver room. So there's not really a lot of threats to him. So I could see him taking a big step year 3. I don't really see Albert Wilson or Alan Hearns as being the third option there.
Okay. All right. So we got 2 for Gesicki, 1 for Fant. Dan, are you going to hop in with Fant or hop in with us with Gesicki?
I'm going with Gesicki as well. It's largely coming down to targets between the two of them. Fant didn't get Gesicki got more targets, and the Broncos went and they got Judy, and they went and they got Melvin Gordon, and Melvin Gordon he catches the ball a lot too. And they didn't lose a lot of targets. They didn't have a lot of vacated targets. And then another thing I really looked at was Fant was not great after Locke took over. So if you take out the one game where he caught all 4 balls thrown to him for 113 yards and a touchdown, the other 4 games that Locke was the starting quarterback for, Fant had 6 catches for 75 yards in 4 games. Like that's a good 1 game. It's a bad 2 games. That's a horrible 4 games. So that kind of scares me. And like I said, if you look at just the targets, he had 66 targets last year. He was in for every game compared to 89 for Gesicki. They both were in both games. And also The Dolphins' defense, though improved, was the worst defense in the NFL last year. So they have to throw the football. They have no choice. And they didn't go out and pick up any other receivers. And Jordan Howard isn't a big receiving running back. So I think Gesicki sees at least as many targets as he saw last year. And if you're getting him 89, 90 targets, he's going to produce.
All right.
And Nick, one more thing with Gesicki, and this is really kind of why I split it, was ADP. He's going almost 2 rounds after Fant.
Really?
Yeah, 19.
Okay. Very interesting there.
I just say go easy with those targets because you'll see when those targets started to bump wasn't when our boy Preston Williams was out.
That's
Before
true.
that, he was sitting on 6, 2, 3, 4, 3. So he wasn't seeing that much volume until Preston Williams went down. So we'll see how that. I mean,
those are good things to factor.
Devil's advocate on that one.
Yeah.
But I get you.
And that's why this is. That's why I think it's close. That's why these were tough ones that Nick picked.
It's real close.
Yes.
Yeah, which is where a lot of people debate on even a guy like Devontae Parker. Like, was he a huge beneficiary of Preston Williams going down because they were both kind of eating into each other? And I think not a lot of people like to talk about that, but we'll move on. So
don't
getting closer and closer to the hour mark. So one word. If you need a sentence, throw in a sentence for this one. But I got T.J. Hockenson versus Jonnu Smith. We'll just go quick. Dave, who you got?
Jonnu, cheaper, ADP.
All right, Dan.
Hockenson, Stafford, targets.
Okay, Beezy.
Hockenson, Stafford, targets.
All right, and I'm gonna say Hockenson, and I'm gonna flip it, and it'll be like Jonnu. Not a lot of volume. All right, let's go on to the quarterbacks just so we can get through these. We'll probably hit 2 of them and then say the quick word on the third. This one was interesting. Drew Lock versus Sam Darnold, and I think we'll go a little zigzag with our who goes where. We'll have Dan, then Beezy, then Dave. So Dan, you could start us off.
So I put this on Twitter because I couldn't figure out who I liked. And Twitter says Drew Lock by a surprising amount. And as much as Twitter says Drew Lock by a surprising amount, I think I still end up I'm going to go Sam Darnold for the sole reason that I like a quarterback that I know and I trust a little bit more. We've seen some of Sam Darnold. I don't know who Drew Lock is yet. He's very up and down in 5 games. And it's tough. I'm hoping that nobody is starting either of these 2 guys. Obviously, Sam Darnold has Adam Gase and the Bills and the Patriots in his division, so he faces some really tough defenses. But, he's got a little bit more time with his receiving core, a little bit more time with the offense. Quarterbacks usually tend to really improve if they're going to in that 3rd year. So I'm just going to bank that hopefully Sam Darnold takes that next step, and we're still just not sure with Lock.
All right, so we're going Sam Darnold from Dan. Beezy, who do you have?
Sam Darnold. They're building up that offensive line this offseason. That was a big move for them. They drafted the best wide receiver in the 2020 class in Denzel Mims. Let's bring some fire, baby. Let's bring some fire.
Hey, do it. I love it.
But no, I just really like him coming into year 3. The motto last year is just it was what it was. It wasn't anything crazy. So he's been improving as he goes. They added Mims. I'm not a Perryman fan, but they got Jamison Crowder there. If Chris Herndon's a real person, then maybe he's gonna actually do something maybe. But I like Darnold, and it's just Drew Lock. You just don't know what you're gonna get yet. He could be fantastic and come out and just load it up, or he's gonna be out by game 6 and they're going to have some another quarterback in there doing something. So we'll see how that goes.
Quick statement. Jamison Crowder might be the most slept on wide receiver in fantasy right now.
Agreed.
Completely slept on. But
yes, sir.
Somebody said, not to get too much into this, but somebody said otherwise the other day, and they're like, man, he was good because he got a lot of volume. And I was thinking, I'm like, man, this guy was targeted and he caught the ball. Like, what else do you want from this guy?
That's exactly what he needed to do.
Yeah. I mean, I got no complaints if I'm throwing him the ball and he catches it. But to each their own. Dave, who do you got here? Drew Lock or Sam Darnold?
I'll buck the trend. Drew
All
Lock.
right.
I just think that the upside is there. Sam Darnold is attached to Adam Gase, and I think that it's going to drag him down a little bit. He's in an extremely difficult division. He gets the Patriots twice. He gets the Buffalo Bills twice. And the Dolphins, now they have Xavier Howard, paired up with Byron Jones. I like the schedule better for Locke. I think he's more athletic, so he might add a little bit to the running game. They didn't really let him go last year. He didn't have a lot of high passing attempts, so he didn't have a lot of high fantasy production at the end of the year. He did win games, but adding Judy, improving the offensive line, bringing in Melvin Gordon, I just think that Drew Lock has all the pieces, and if he fails, it's on him for sure. But I feel like that they did a much better job than the Jets did of giving him weapons. They let Robbie Anderson leave and they brought in Brashard Perryman. So it's kind of like, there's not much improvement there. I think Mims is good. And I think that's going to, we'll see where that goes. I don't know about year one. But for just this year, I'm going to go with Drew Lock.
All right. So you got Drew Lock, and Colin from Shotgun Fantasy said it's Drew Lock season in all caps. So he was on board with you too. I am a big Sam Darnold truther just because I think the talent's there. I think he's kind of been under the bus with a lot of things in the past. My one dynasty league gives me and my brother shit all the time because they do just put in all these memes about Sam Darnold. But nothing against what you said about Gase, Dave, at all. So don't take like I'm knocking what you said, but I just get sick of it. And you said so many more things beyond that. So it's definitely not the only thing you said. You said a lot of good stuff. But I'm just sick of the narrative of like, man, Adam Gase, you can't be successful with Adam Gase. And, like people look at Baker and say, man, it was Freddie Kitchens' fault. I mean, I think like when the quarterback's on the field making the decisions, he's either going to be good or he's going to be bad. And it's going to be a lot on him. I know the play calling is one thing and, how things get set up. But Sam Darnold, he had the ghost week, which, gets a lot of gifs and memes from it. But 6 through 17, QB 14. I think last year, I mean, what did the guy really have going on for him? I think you guys touched on it. The offensive line was bad, and it got improved. I think Ryan Griffin as a tight end, good red zone target, not a Chris Herndon. I actually like Chris Herndon a lot because when he was not hurt and not suspended and, not MIA, he actually was very good. He was very talented. He was a great outlet for Sam Darnold. We saw some great plays. You look at the one video all the time of the one-hand catch, spin and go down. But I think with improvements to the offensive line, I think with adding his tight end, not any tight end, his tight end, you add Perryman, you add Mims. I think he's got some good weapons to finally be successful. And I think we can make all the Sam Darnold jokes we want if he's not after this year. I don't think it's like a phenomenal cushion like Drew Lock has. I wrote down Drew Lock, and I didn't even, I didn't get into a lot of details, but I just wrote weapons 3 times because I love Jerry Jeudy. He's got Cortland Sutton. He's got a lot of things going on. He's got a great defense, which might change what he has to do. But I'm going to go with Sam Darnold. I think he's got the first opportunity finally to actually perform. And even when he didn't have a lot going on for him, he did have some good games. So I like the talent there. My league mates in my one dynasty league, this is a stick it to you guys. But yeah, all right, we can move on. I'm going to go one more quarterback, this guy or that guy. And then we'll just do the one answer and then we'll wrap it up because I know I don't want to steal you guys for too long.
I'm good with whatever, brother. I'm good.
All right. Sounds good. Let's skip down though to Baker Mayfield or Daniel Jones. So did I throw this in because 5 Wide Dan is a massive Giants fan? Maybe not. Maybe they were close in rankings. So I'm going to say it was because they were close in rankings on Fantasy Pros going in the season. So Dave, you can start us off here. Who do you got, Baker Mayfield or Daniel Jones?
Cool. And this is not just because I'm a Giants fan as well, but
right,
I'm
there you go.
Daniel Jones. Well, I don't know if Dan's going Daniel Jones, but both guys, they do turn the ball over, which concerns me. And Daniel Jones' first 3 weeks really concern me. He opens up with Pittsburgh, goes to San Francisco, and plays Chicago. So if you're a streamer, I don't suggest going after Daniel Jones. But he rushes the ball, and that really makes up for those turnovers. The Giants' defense is god-awful, and so they're going to be playing from behind a lot. He put up some really, really nice production and showed some really good upside last year as a rookie. So I think with Jason Garrett, he's gonna be able to continue that. He's got a lot of weapons, and again, that defense is just so bad. They're going to be having to put up a lot of points and chase a lot.
All right, just to make sure we hit on some comments here. The real Adam H said Darnold from the last one. We got a jab here. Locke seeing open receivers. Darnold seeing ghosts. Got a Gase with a tier mark here. Yeah, so we got some good comments coming in. I'll hop in next really quick. Baker last season, 22 touchdowns, 21 interceptions. That was a split. Jones missed 3 games, but 24 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. 4 games, depending on your league, obviously, but he had 4 games, 28 plus for scoring, which is great for a fantasy owner. Big question mark with Daniel Jones that people throw in there every now and then is can he hold the football? He had all these fumbles, that were costly for the team. For me, is it always the quarterback's fault when he gets smacked and drops the ball? I don't know. Could he have held on the ball more? Sure. But the interesting thing about Daniel Jones is he literally had 0 games where he had like his full core. I don't think there was one game where he had Evan Ingram and Slayton and Shepard and Golden Tate all lined up ready to go. So for him to have some big games last season with a lot of guys banged up, even Barkley was out, for a few weeks, which has an impact on a quarterback. So I think with him not having a full core of guys and still performing, I'm on board with him. Baker Mayfield had every opportunity last season to be better than QB20. You can knock the head coach, but hold the guy accountable for throwing 21 interceptions. I mean, Freddie Kitchens didn't throw those interceptions. Did he play call poorly or this and that? I don't know, maybe, but I kind of get sick of like pointing the finger at the coach for like the quarterback being set up to be successful. I don't like how he finished QB20. Will he be better this season? I hope so. Or, Case Keenum might be licking his chops, but I think Baker will be better. I just like Daniel Jones because I've seen better out of him, in my opinion, with less help. Baker's got, obviously we don't have to go down a list, but his list of supporting cast is very good. And for him to perform that poorly with that supporting cast, blame the O-line, the coach, whatever you want, I'm just not on board with Baker, even though I was huge on him coming out of college. But yeah, let's go Beezy on this one. Is it Baker Mayfield or is it Daniel Jones for you?
Oh, man, this is a tough one, actually, because I love Baker. I think his upside's there. I think obviously he's got the draft capital. Mm-hmm. I think I'm going to go with Baker on this one. I mean, okay. I think Daniel Jones has a lot of potential. We haven't seen him, go to that yet, and they've obviously missed a lot of weapons and stuff like that. But yeah. Baker had an off year. He's got to get his head out of his ass and eat a little bit of humble pie. Mm-hmm. But I think that this year was a big wake up call for them because yep. How many years have the Browns been in the can? I mean, it's like every year they're supposed to be great and they're not. Yeah. So he's gonna have to come to get it together, get out there. He's got plenty of weapons. I like him better than I do Daniel Jones for 2020.
Okay, all right, all fair points there. Dan, are you gonna go against your boy Daniel Jones or hop on him before? I got my guy McBreeze 11 saying tough one, so it is one.
I read this and I was wondering because I think I'm higher than most of the experts on both of these guys.
Yeah.
I like both Baker Mayfield and Daniel Jones more than everybody else. I think right now the expert consensus rankings have Daniel Jones higher, but he's going lower in ADP. So I'm definitely thinking, that it's very close. They're going, I think, one spot different, but he is going behind Baker. But I think the big difference here and why I'm going Daniel Jones, I'll just say it, I can beat around the bush a little bit, is Jason Garrett is an unbelievable offensive coordinator and has produced great fantasy quarterbacks. I just want to state Dak Prescott was not highly touted. In his 4 seasons with Jason Garrett, he was the 6th best fantasy quarterback, 11th, 10th, and 2nd. Every year he was a QB1. The other big thing is the Giants' offensive line was so bad at tackle. They actually had Nate Soldier allowed 7 more pressures than any other tackle in the league. And their team allowed the most amount of pressures from the tackle position in the entire NFL. They went out and they drafted 2 tackles in the first 3 rounds, including Andrew Thomas, who I think steps in and instantly is a game changer. I am a little worried about whether or not we'll ever see all of the weapons on the field for the Giants, because they keep saying like, oh, if Shepard and Slayton and Tate and Ingram and Barkley are all on the field at the same time, their offense is going to be unstoppable. But they haven't been able to be on the field for the same time for a reason. So that does scare me a little bit, and I do love Baker's weapons, but I think I give it to Daniel Jones, slight edge, and I think both quarterbacks finish as QB1s. And I think where they're going in the draft, they're steals.
Hot take there. Two of the guys both going QB1. I also agree that it is a close one. Didn't want to knock anybody too much on that one. Last one here. I'm going to run through this one pretty quick. I'm just going to spit out my bullet points just so we can get through the last one and make sure that we have time to just plug in your guys' stuff at the end here. But I wrote down Derek Carr versus Dwayne Haskins 2020. What I wrote down, 2019, 70% completion for Derek Carr, 24 drops, 3rd most in the league. Your fantasy quarterback needs to score. And if they they need guys to score. And if that doesn't happen, your quarterback's not going to be successful. Got some young guys coming in for the Raiders. Might be a better cast for him. So I'm going to go with Derek Carr on this one just because we've seen him be pretty good in the past and not really have a lot of support. So I'm going to go Derek Carr and turn it over to Beezy.
I'll go with you too. Derek Carr is the guy. He had a much better year last year. He's got Marcus Mariota as his backup now. That's kind of crawling right up his butt. So he needs to. It's now or never for Carr if he's going to stay with Las Vegas. Then this is, he's got to have a good year. They got him the weapons. I'll go there.
All right, Dave, what you got?
I'm going with Carr.
All right, he's got Carr. Dan?
I'm going with Carr too, and I think the Redskins offense is going to be terrible. They got one good receiver, and then they're rolling out a guy who's rushed the ball 40 sometimes and a guy who's 35 at running back. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Redskins had one of the worst offenses in NFL history this year.
Dan, they're who?
Oh, sorry. The Washington. I am sorry.
All right, sorry. I got lost for a second. I didn't know what team you're referring to, but
yeah, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard for me. I know that they shouldn't have been that for years. It should have changed a long time ago. But old things die hard. Being in them in my division for so long, the Washington football team.
Hey, it's just as tough as, and I'm not cracking jokes, but it's just as tough as like getting used to saying the Las Vegas Raiders or the LA this and whatever the case is. All right, so we went through a bunch of guys here. We could talk all night about a lot of these. Again, I really appreciate all 3 of you guys coming in. It means a lot to me. I was excited the minute like each and every one of you guys like said yes, because I was throwing shots at you guys as far as like shooting my shot. Hey, will they come on or not? So I do appreciate that. Let's go. We'll go Beezy, Dave, Dan, just in that order. Again, just tell everybody, because I'm going to have this on, I'll throw it on YouTube. I'll throw it on the podcast. So whoever wants to hear it, whatever way, they might see our screens, might not. Where can we find you guys? What you got going on? Anything you want to plug right now? So we'll start with you, Beezy.
All right. You can find me on Twitter at the BZBFF. You can find me over at the Undroppables. And you can also find me at Sons of Dynasty. And you can listen to us every week on the new podcast, Unscripted. And that's pretty much wraps it all about up for us, my man. I appreciate you having me on. Much pleasure with you guys. And anytime you want to do this again, let's go.
Gmo the icon with some fire.
Gmo, that's my boy.
There you go. I was about to say, man, you are the mayor, so I gotta continue to have you on all the time. All your fans are coming in there, and a lot of our other guys. So I don't want to knock anybody else. Yeah, we got a Washington comment. Dave, why don't you talk about Dynasty Dorks, where to find you, all that good stuff.
All right, I was right there at Dynasty Dorks. You can DM me for some fantasy advice. Tag me on your trade polls. If you are an up and coming Dynasty or fantasy football website or a writer, let me know. I can get you in touch with some great guys, but I can also help promote your content. I definitely want to just be able to build some bridges for people out there.
All right. Appreciate that, Dave. And Dan, talk about 5 Wide Football.
All right. So 5 Wide, the number 5, it's 5 Wide Football on Twitter, 5 Wide Football on YouTube, 5 Wide Football is the website. So it's pretty easy to find. Just been doing out there, grinding, getting a lot of stuff done. I want to apologize one more time for calling Washington by the wrong name. And
that was a joke. No one took that serious. No, it's all good. We all got to get used to it. Don't worry about that.
And I do want to celebrate that my Yankees are winning right now, and Giancarlo Stanton, he just hit out a bomb today. So it's good to see baseball back.
It's plugging the Yankees here too, sneaking that one in. Again, Nick here from P2W Fantasy. I pretty much run that brand, and my 2 other P2W guys, Anthony and Thor, not here tonight, but they're always grinding it out too. We're the 3 of us are going to drop a rankings article for the weekend, so I'm preparing to put the gloves on and take the punches for what I have to say for 2020. But always trying to link up with some solid accounts like these 3 guys here, even beyond our own team. So we do a lot with our team, 3 guys. And then we do a lot with whoever we can link up with. And I think that's a huge part of the fantasy community is hearing from different accounts and different people. Yeah, guys from different states in here. I love it. I learn a lot every single day, even if it's just on Twitter or just on a talk from you guys here. So, guys, I appreciate it again. About to log off, but have a great night, everybody. And peace out.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks again.